Alright, what's up guys? So as you can see, we are back with another video of the BMW. So, what we are doing today on the BMW is a common issue with the N52 motor or X3. This is a 2007 X3, but it should work for 2003 to 2012, I want to say. Replacing the gaskets on the oil filter housing. So you got two gaskets, one that goes to the actual like water cooler up front, and then you have one that goes to the actual base of the motor itself. I'm going to show you how to rip this thing apart without taking the manifold off. A lot of times they'll tell you to take the manifold off to access this bolt right here. Obviously you can tell you don't have to take the manifold off to do that. So let's get into it. First off, you're gonna have the oil cooler on it, or the whole oil filter housing with the water cooler in front of it. In order to get the room you're gonna need, you're gonna have to loosen up the power steering reservoir, which is gonna be 2 bolts right here. You're gonna pull that to the side, and then there's gonna be 2 alternator bolts up top, and then there's gonna be 2 down low. Way down there, not sure if I can get you down there, but there's 2 down there. I did leave this back one on just so I can swivel the bracket forward, and then I can swivel into there to get this last bolt. As you can tell, I'm gonna have to loosen up the tensioner pulley right here to actually kick this on, because it seems like it's shifted a little bit. Probably when I was in there messing around, it probably shifted. So I'm going to have to end up going in here, grabbing this, loosen this up to realign both mount holes for the alternator. So what you're going to want to do is, before you start messing with the actual oil filter housing itself, go ahead and disconnect the one main line, which is basically just held in by this little clip here. You basically get in there with a flathead, pull this tab up. Once this tab is locked up, there's nothing else holding it on. There is an O-ring inside of this. If the O-ring is bad, I would honestly just go ahead and replace the whole hose. This hose is relatively new, and the O-ring is still good in there, so I'm not going to mess with replacing the hose just yet. So you can leave that like that, and kick that up out of the way. I just hung it up over here. You're going to have a second hole. You have 2 options. You can either use a small socket for the back of this lower oil filter housing bolt, or you can do what I did and remove the 2 10s that hold the second water pipe. 2 10s that hold this on. This one does not have an O-ring on it. The O-ring is actually inside the housing, and the O-ring doesn't look terrible, so I'm gonna go ahead, same thing with that, leave it alone. Normally I would recommend highly replacing O-rings, but that one actually looks pretty new, so I'm assuming somebody was in here semi-recently to do this before. Unfortunately, the gaskets on these are common and prone to failure. So once that's done, then you're gonna want to go up through and actually start taking the bolts out. I took the water cooler off first. Once the two water lines were off, you have the one main line, which is just clip oriented. You have the second smaller hose, which is actually held on by an actual clip. I just used a 1/4-inch socket to rip mine off. I'm not sure what type of clamp they have on yours, but I just used a 1/4-inch socket to go ahead and rip this little hose off. As you can see, it just slides on. I'm going to show you the cooler and everything in a second, but that was just slide on to the bottom with a clamp, and then this side is just on with the clip hose. So basically what you're going to need here is you're going to need starting order. So in order to get to any of this, you're gonna have to take off the front piece, the front trim piece, which is gonna end up being 4 T27 Torx bits. Once you take this piece off, it allows you access this piece, the actual air snorkel. That is also going to be 4 T27s. You're going to have 2 up top on each side, and then you're going to have 2 in the front, right underneath where the hood latch, or basically where the hood latch would be on a normal car. And then these are the other 4 locations for the T27s. That's going to be the first step to actually start ripping all that stuff apart. I have it all organized in here. Like I said, T27 is going to end up ripping those 8 screws off. I always like to separate them so I know which is which. Try to get some organization going. This is the clamp I was telling you about. Mine was just a little 1/4 inch, so not much involved. Taking the power steering pump reservoir off. There's going to be 2 of these. I dropped one, so I have to go fishing for the other one, but this is one of them. There is 2. That is going to be a T45 Torx bit to remove the power steering reservoir off. And then, like I said, for the one water hose that's connected to the block, that it has the plastic piece attached to it, that's 2 10s. So fish your 10 out of the treasure box before that disappears. Next up, we're going to actually move to the oil filter housing itself. So it's going to have a total of 6 Torx head screws. The oil cooler ones are going to have this little knob on them. I did try to get onto them with the E10 reverse Torx socket. The E10. E10 is for all 6 of them, but this one it wouldn't fit over it. I could have just tried to like back off the extension to the back of it, and it probably would have grabbed, but I didn't want to do that, so I ended up grabbing a 12-point wrench that is a 3/8. So a 3/8 12-point wrench will rip the 3 3/8 or the 3 Torx bits off of the cooler itself. So once you have this cooler off, like I said, there's one down low right by the water pipe, one here and one here. So this is the first thing you're going to see when you open that, is this. So you're going to have to pop these 3 off, and then you can actually access this is basically the water oil cooler setup. You basically got the water that goes in, and then oil. That'll rip those off. For the 3 Torx bits on the oil filter housing itself, so as you can see, I left the oil filter cap on it because the filter, like I said, is like brand new. Definitely a mess. Still have to clean them up. But you have the back side, which this one is going to go to the engine itself, right to the block. This one is going to be for this cooler to sit on. So the cooler will actually mount up to this, like this. So you guys are going to see it oriented like this when you pop the hood. All you got to do is get to that screw, and this bottom screw. And then just smack this little guy, it'll come right off. Then you have this one, which is going to be block side like this, and this is where it's going to be a pain to get this back screw. You can get in there with an extension and a swivel, but yes, it is a pain to get to. Also, you have a sensor in the back. You basically just clip the sensor, pull it out, comes right apart. You are going to need the 2 gaskets. I went to BMW and actually grabbed these. So this one is going to be the block gasket. Here is the part number for you guys. It's going to be 11428637421. That's going to be the block gasket, and then you have the actual basically water cooler setup for the oil filter housing. And this one is going to be filter or part number 11428637820. So you're going to need both of those to get it done. Like I said, I mix and match with extensions. This one was almost too long, but it did work. I used this with a swivel end, paired that up with the E10 Torx onto there, and I was able to get in there with it's a 1/4 inch drive ratchet. I was able to get in there or sneak my way past the intake manifold and actually get that 3rd bolt out, which is just a little guy. But this one is the one that's going to end up trying to cause you to take the whole intake manifold off. So that's your way to sneak around it. And then you have all your other screws for the alternator bracket, so you have extra space. It's going to be 4 of these, and they are extremely light, so I imagine they'll break easy. So I'll link the Torx specs down in the info box. Just go ahead and click down there for Torx specs. That is going to be a different setup. That one is going to run a E12 reverse Torx. I took 3 out. Like I said, I loosened the one up and left it in. I was hoping it would actually hold the bracket in place a little bit better than what it did, but it did still shift, but it's not that big of a deal. I'll just basically grab, like I said, grab onto the tensioner, loosen it, and then basically push the alternator back into position, or basically pull and push, one of those 2 setups. While you're in here, if you do have the extra time or you want to, you could technically get in here while it's all open and actually clean off the VVT solenoids if you want to. They're right there. So if you wanted to do that, you could access those 2 and clean them off a while, hit them with some basically sensor cleaner. They're probably pretty crusty. Those are actually a common fault as well, one of them failing. I already had the tensioner fail, which, by the way, if you guys are looking, if your tensioner decides to fail and your belt starts riding off, this little guy it's a pricey one. I think it was like almost 200 bucks for this setup, for the arm, the wheel, everything from Advanced. So that was steep. So definitely order that part a while if you do have that fail, because I would not walk into a parts store and try to grab that, not at that price. But yeah, that's what I was saying. So this bolt is the one that I lost down in there, so I'll have to go fishing for it. But once you do that, you can basically pull everything out of the way. This is that bracket I was telling you. I did leave the one in, so you can swivel it back and then have the extra space to run the extension and the swivel right to this hole. Obviously, reverse install is easier. Basically, you just redo everything you just took apart. Obviously, I'll probably put this bolt in, to start the block mount. Once this one and that one are tight, then I'll reattach this hose, which is right down there. Once that's all set up, then I'll slowly start putting it back together. More than likely though, this is going to end up being first, so I can get this out of the way when it's all open like this. Now what you're going to want to do, once you have everything set up the way you want to do, you're going to have to clean off the gaskets, or rip off the old gaskets, hit them with the brake cleaner. Really try to clean them out, especially this mating surface. You're going to really want to try to clean this off. It may look like it's stained, like mine looks like it's pretty stained, but it's smooth, so I'm not even going to worry about it. I'll probably hit it with the brake cleaner one more time and wipe everything back down. Make sure that's a good mating surface. Same thing with the water to oil cooler. Make sure that's a good mating surface on that end. And then basically the gasket removal is actually really simple. So this one is just a flat piece. So this one's not, it shouldn't have a gasket stuck to it, but the same setup. Spray with brake clean, go ahead and wipe it down. This one's actually pretty smooth. There's a little rough spot right here. Hit that with brake clean and rub that out. And then clean up the whole mating surface. And then definitely clean up the underside, because that is filthy. Same thing with this, clean up the whole underside of this, because that is filthy. Clean up this ridge where that main water pipe goes and latches into. And then you have your 2 gaskets, which literally you just get in there with probably like a pick or maybe a small screwdriver. Just try not to nick those corners, and basically the gasket should just like rip back out. Yeah, I can't get it with my finger, but get in there with like a small pick or something, find an open edge. This whole filter, this whole gasket, you can tell it's not even a gasket anymore. It's just flattened out, the whole thing, block side and cooler side. So that's basically all you have to do. Once you do all that, reassemble it back together, and hopefully it doesn't leak. It shouldn't, but you never know. Something might have happened in the process of reinstall. That, I mean, it happens. Sometimes it just happens. But besides that, hopefully this video does help a little bit. Definitely keep everything organized. Try not to drop bolts. I only dropped the reservoir bolt, so it's not do or die. If I can't find it, I'll just order another one. It'll be perfectly fine and held in position with one. But I think I'm going to wrap this video up. If you guys have questions, go ahead and drop them down in the comments. I'll answer them as best as I can. If not, you can find me on Instagram at rspecnick. You can DM me there. I'll answer some questions, maybe throw you guys some pics and whatnot that I can't have on, that I don't have really on YouTube for this. And like I said, this should work for 03 to 2012. This is the X3 3.0 gas engine, so pretty much your basic X3. But besides that, if you're not following me already, smash the subscribe channel, because we got more coming for the BMW and all the other ones. Actually, the Genesis is getting washed in about an hour, so I'm gonna have to meet the guy over there, so this is gonna have to go on pause. But besides that, hopefully this helps you guys. But yeah, thanks for watching. Peace.